In a previous video, we talked about a two-way path. So what we want to talk about now is something called a multipath. The classic if, else if, else if, else if. Now in Python it's called Elif, right? But there's a whole bunch of options all at once. So we start our code and we have a whole series of tests, and we could go down path 1 if it's true, path 2 if it's true, path 3 if it's true, path 4 if it's true, path 5 maybe. Or maybe path 5 is, well, if all those other ones don't work, this is like the default path, the else path. And so it's a multi-pathway. One of the keys, though, is that you only get to go down one of these, typically. So which path are you going to go down? The first one that trips true for you. Okay. So the first one that trips true, yes, according to the data that I tested, that's true. That's the path you go down, and you typically don't get to go down any other path. And then eventually you join on to the main path, or it merges back and our program ends. So let's go take a look. So this sample, so let's go take a look. This example is a little different in that I've made a custom function to test if something's a number. Mine's a little bit more inclusive. So negative numbers are okay, decimal numbers are okay. But to do that, I had to make my own own function to do that. We'll get into details of that later. But the program is similar that, hey, I'm going to get the user to enter their age. When they first type it in, it has to be done as text. But before I convert it to a float, I want to make sure that it's convertible to a float. So is this really a number, right? And again, mine's been expanded to handle negative numbers and decimal numbers. And what you might notice is that this is a little strange. I see an if and another if, right? So what we have here, from line 33 to line 50, is a classic two-way path, right? But inside, the true part of my two-way path is a new multipath. But I don't want to start doing these tests of ranges. Are you less than 2? Are you less than 17? Are you less than 30? Unless I have a real number, right? A proper number. So that's what I'm doing here. And so one thing to understand is that, is there a multi-way path? Yes, but it's not until we get inside the true part of this first two-way path. So we have a two-way path, and nested inside that, we have a multi-way path. So it doesn't take much to get to a place where your code starts to increase in complexity. So the thing is to start running this to see what might happen. Okay, and so I'll just go up here, right click on main, and then run the Python file in terminal. So I'll type in 10, right? We get you sleep a lot. Why did we get that message? So we came down here, right? And it tested and it says, well, 10 is a number, so that's all good. And so then we get busy converting it to a proper number that the computer can understand, and then we do a test. If age is less than 2, well, is 10 less than 2? No, so we don't see this message, right? Is age less than 17? And we see, yes, it is. So we see that message. Now, what I'll type in now, let's go up here. Let's type in the word cat, right? And we see the age you entered is not valid, right? But what I want to do here is we will actually put in something called a breakpoint, slow our code down to see what's really happened. What really happens when I type in cat? Okay. So I'm going to go up here, run start debugging. Important to have a breakpoint. That's the little red dot there, bright red dot. So run, start debugging. Now I've had issues with this, and I've answered surveys and with the Microsoft team. Sometimes this takes 2 runs to make happen because of activating the conda environment. So, oh, we're good. We got lucky this time. Excellent. So I'll type in the word cat. Okay. So we were stuck up here on line 29, right? That was that prompt, enter your age. And we entered the word cat. And then I hit enter. When I hit enter, I stopped at my breakpoint. Now I can hover over age as a string and see that it's set to cat. I can look over here and see that it's set to cat. Now I want to do what's called step over, which means basically execute this line on 30. Do this test. Okay. Tell me if cat can be converted to a number. I'll step over it. Boom. All of a sudden I got shot way down to line 51, right? So that's important to know. I leapfrogged all over that code, right? And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. If you go and look up here in the debug window under variables here, we see that is number return false. So that test is given a heads up. Oh, by the way, when you ran this function here, it came back as false, and it should. Cat is, you can't convert cat to a number. That makes total sense. But what happened is we did that test and we bypassed all this code, and we got to the else part, and it parked us right on line 51. Okay, so what it says is we leapfrog all over that code, and we're at the beginning of line 51 about to execute it. Okay, we're not going to do any of those tests that we see between lines 38 and let's say 46. We're not going to do any of those. We're going to skip right over them, okay? Because we didn't pass the first test. So there's a big chunk of our code that didn't run, right? And that's by design. We don't want to do any of that unless we get a valid number. Now I need to execute this line, and then we see that, okay, now I'm on line 52, 51 just occurred, and we can see down in the window, okay, I can see that the age you entered is not a valid number. Okay, and that's what I'm expecting. And then I'll execute that line by stepping over, and we see that last message, processing complete. Okay. What would happen if I ran it with negative numbers? In our previous examples, we ran negative numbers, but is numeric, right? Because of the hyphen symbol that's used to represent a negative number. It says, well, that's not a numeric, right? That's not a digit between 0 and 9, which is fair. So right now, if I entered, it may not make sense that someone is minus 20 years old, right? But what would our code do, right? That sort of thing. So I'll just hit enter here. Okay, it says you are never tired. What it did is it came in, right? So obviously we got to line 39. We don't see that message unless we get to that line, right? And so we got there. So this passed the test. Well, minus 20, according to War's version of isNumber, is actually a number. So it's safe to convert it to a float. And minus 20 is definitely less than 2. Okay, and so we get that message. Let's try some other numbers. What happens if we enter positive 20? Okay, you are eager. Does that make sense? Well, it's a number, so we'll pass that test. We'll go to line 34 and convert it. And then we'll come down here. And is 20 less than 2? No, so we skip down to else if. Is it less than 17? Well, no, right? Is it less than 30? Yes, it is. So actually, let's do this as a debug session so you can see where all the tests are being done. Run, start with debugging, and I'm going to enter 20 again. So I'm on this line. Is it a number? I can hover. It's 20. That should be able to be converted to a float. So I'll step over. And I get inside my first path, which is a two-way test. And we can see that it returned true. It is a number. That's telling us there. It is true. We step over. A new variable shows up. 20.0. Okay, good. It got converted properly to a float. And is it less than 2? Well, no, it's not. So we should jump to line 40 for the next test. And we did. And that test will fail, or it should, and it did. And we're at 30. And so then we see, okay, that we got true. That is true. It is less than 30. So we go to you are eager, and we print that out. And then we're dropped all the way down again, even past our else to line 52, right? So one thing is to pick up is the multipath, but also that once we're done, we fast forward through code quickly, jump right over it to the next line that we can execute, which is processing complete. So I'm going to run this again. We have some more tests. And so I'll just go back here, right click, and run Python in the terminal. And 30, let's type 30 in. And we get age unknown. And the only way I can get age unknown, right, is that first I pass in a valid number, and then all these tests fail, right? And only if all these tests fail do I get age unknown. And the question is, but I've got 30 in here. I got it in here twice, right? How does it not hit on that? And this is a thing with computers, is they're very finicky, exact. The tests I have are you less than 30? Is 30 less than 30? No, it's equal to 30. And the other test is 30 greater than 30? And the answer is no, 30 is equal to 30. It's not greater than 30. So because of the way I design my tests, right, I have opened up, I guess, what we could call a gap, right, a hole. There's that my data can fall through. So you can do this, and you don't discover these till you throw a lot of data at your program and see, well, most of the time it's working, but on this one number, it's acting a little funky. And that's because, like I said, I've opened up a little bit of a chasm, a crevasse, a gap, a logical gap where I'm not trapping for a certain value. It's falling through these tests. So you can do this to yourself, right? It happens. And so we will go up here and run this. What if I do 40, right? You were tired. Well, that makes sense. What about if I do 50, right? That sort of thing. You were tired. That makes sense. We're only going to get to y's if we're greater than 60 in that. So let's try that. Let's try 60, but let's go bigger to make sure we're really far past 60 in that. So I'll type in 70, and we get you were tired. And wait a minute. Okay, that doesn't seem to work, right? That sort of thing. Well, what about 100? Try a real big number. No, you were tired. Okay, so why is that? So this is designed on purpose. We said here, right, if you are greater than 30, right? And so, but I tried 70, I tried 100, right? And the thing is, are they greater than 30? Well, technically they are, right? And so technically, this trips true. And that's what I said before, is you go down the path that trips true for you. So the first path that trips true for you, that's the one you go down. So what we have here is we have some logic blocking us from getting to another test. And this can happen as well. Okay, so you can write logic that opens up a gap that you fall through, and you can write logic that blocks you from getting to a section of your code that you're expecting to get to. We expect to get to greater than 60, right? That sort of thing. We're expecting that, but we have a line that's actually blocking us from getting there. So these things will happen as you write more code. You'll open up gaps. You'll put lines that block you from getting to another section of code. It happens. So I just want to make you aware that when you get that gut feeling like, hey, it feels like we're not getting into this part of the loop, or we're not getting to this part of the code, maybe you've opened up a gap. Maybe you have a line that's blocking you. Okay, that's all for now.